This video couldn't happen without those you supporting me on Patreon, including the big patrons of this month, the Nerd Therapist and Xavis. Hey Pokemon Masters, Budgie here. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't really say Pokemon Masters for this video. Hello, Hyrule Historians, how goes it? There will be this and one other video that are not going to be Pokemon related in the upcoming week. Don't worry, there'll be a Pokemon video either side of all of it, and Pokemon is still what I'm doing. I'm not moving into these franchises on the long term. But with today's franchise, I had a channel about this before I had a channel about anything. Do you want to just have a 5-second clip about how bad it was? Here. So, Hyrule, doorway, Termina. That doorway is where the transition is, so where Link falls down the hole. Oh boy, that was the Wind Waker 94. That was my YouTube channel long before Birdkeeper Toby, and it actually did surprisingly well. Like I should have been a Zelda tuber. I have been a long time Legend of Zelda fan, as I know many of you are as well. I am the expert. In fact, yeah, joining me to help out with today's video to delve into another topic is Dr. WILY, who is a Zelda YouTuber, but, you know, I'm the expert here.
Frick you! How dare you question me? I am the Lord and Savior! I am God of this Zelda universe, you puny mortal! Well, not really, but actually, no. You know what? Let's just talk about Zelda instead.
Okay, so today's topic, what am I doing? Well, my favorite thing with Pokemon is to look at like legendary Pokemon, powerful Pokemon, see how they're all related, right? That's what I did before. Today, I want to do Zelda deities. Because there are loads of Zelda deities throughout the Zelda lore, and as far as I can tell, they all break down into relatively easy and accessible sections. The sky and wind deities, the earth and fire deities, the nature, forest deities, and the water deities. I've said deities way too many times. So, being a bird keeper, we're going to start in the sky, soaring high. We have the sky beings. I really just didn't want to say deities there. The sky gods, and two of my favorite, Xephos and Cyclos. These two gods are inspired by genies or the Shinto kami. They are, as you can see, there's a very clear similarities between them and the Pokemon Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, and they are sort of, you know, gods of nature, gods of the wind. One, the calm winds, and his brother, the evil cyclones, stirring up troubles for people across the Great Sea. It's very interesting that they chose frogs as the creatures, because I think of frogs as very friendly, and you meet the first one in the game, and he's a very friendly friend. It's a good chap. His brother is a little bit more mean, but their designs, there's something about the designs of these creatures that makes them really appealing to me. Maybe it's just the roundness, they're flying on a cloud. Like, I would like to fly around on a cloud and just chill out all day, going along with the breeze, you know? And frogs do hold a very special place within Japanese mythology, but as well as that, there's actually other frog deities throughout Zelda. For example, in Majora's Mask, there's the Mask of Don Goro, which you use to reunite all of the frogs. I'm saying that with a question mark because it's been a while since I played it, but all of the frogs are mini-bosses or in the rooms of mini-bosses throughout the games. So there's this weird element of like frogs having extra power, and in Phantom Hourglass, which is the sequel to Wind Waker, there are actually golden frogs hidden throughout the Great Sea, with Golden Chief Cyclos being their leader, who again is very clearly related. Frog deities, there's something to croak about. Hurt myself, honestly, I hurt myself.
Now aside from those froggy peeps, there are the big sky deities like Lavius, the sky spirit from Skyward Sword. It's a big flying whale, which is a trope seen in other games as well, such as Link's Awakening, and again with Phantom Hourglass, where we see more godlike whales. However, with so many whale deities existing in the series, are they connected in a way? Well, they most likely are, because when comparing all of them, we can see some interesting patterns, and we can even figure out what happened to them in the end. They all seem to have similar powers, like being able to fly, and create entire dream or alternate worlds, as seen in Phantom Hourglass and Link's Awakening. However, we aren't sure if they are really related. Oceus kind of came out of nowhere after all, just like the Windfish, while Lavius was appointed a Sky Spirit by Hylia before she became Zelda. But one thing we can almost 100% be certain about is where they died. In the most recent Zelda title, Breath of the Wild, we can actually find skeletons of gigantic whale-like beings. When comparing these remains to the actual creatures, you can see that they look similar. Very similar. Just look at this. You can see the top of it is identical. So we can almost be certain that all of them died in these places where we can find their remains.
Whale now, that's a lot of dead whales. Bit fishy, I would say.
No, nothing's fishy, because whales are mammals, you moron.
Come on, man, you krillin' me here. Oh. Killing. Right then, okay. Speaking of whales, there is also Juban, which I think leads us nicely into the next section. Juban, or Jabu Jabu, who is the kind of the embodiment of the water spirit on Earth. Each of the elements seem to kind of have this, and this is seen very clearly in Ocarina of Time. The great Lord Jabu Jabu, who you actually have to adventure inside of the belly of Jabu Jabu, it's the third dungeon, represents the Waters tribe. The Forest tribe is represented by the Great Deku Tree, and there isn't really a representative for the Fire, the Earth tribe with the Gorons. However, when you jump over to its sequel, The Wind Waker, we see Jabu Jabu, well, we see this character called Juban, who must be related to Jabu Jabu somehow. He protects Nehru's Pearl, Feor's Pearl is protected by the Great Deku Tree, just like the Kokiri Emerald was. And Velu protects the Din's Pearl, so potentially there is an equivalent to the Velu in Ocarina of Time's world, we just don't meet it. And the key thing is here, all three of these appear to be sort of representatives in Hyrule for the Golden Goddesses.
They are the biggest and strongest gods out there in the world of Zelda. Beings that even created the entire world, with each one being responsible for some part of it. Din is power and made the earth, Nehru, which is wisdom and adding the spirit of law to the world, and Feoror, who is courage and created all the life forms. Now, while we're on the topic of the Golden Goddesses, there are also dragon, oracle and spirit versions of them, which seem to be sort of related. The fire-breathing beasts were seen in Skyward Sword and had quite a unique role in the story. These three dragons were gifted with the task of inheriting a part of the Song of the Hero by Hylia and teaching it to the chosen hero so he can get to the final Silent Realm. Then we have the oracles, who are actually humanoid and were seen in the Oracle games, as you would expect. In these games, they also have a very important role, with Nehru controlling time, Din having power over the seasons, and Feoror had nothing because the specific Oracle game wasn't made in the end, sadly enough. And then we have our last one, the Spirits of Light. They were set on Hyrule to contain the light that sustains it, even defeating the Twilight when they tried to take control. However, the ones asking them to do so were the Golden Goddesses, so clearly they are connected but not the same.
Speaking of the light spirits, one of these things is not
Ordena.
like the other. One of these things
It's
just
Ordena.
doesn't go. Can you tell me which thing?
Stop singing.
Is not like
It's
the other?
Ordena.
It's Ordana from Legend of Zelda: The Twilight Princess. It's a totally weird thing with all of the big deities. There seems to be a light spirit equivalent, and then Ordana, there's a light spirit version, but we don't know anything else about it. We do know that Din, Nehru, and Feoror are like the golden goddesses of Hyrule specifically, and potentially other areas have other gods and goddesses. And in the opening cutscene of Twilight Princess, where Link lives, he lives in the Ordon province, which Ordana governs over. They say, you've never been to Hyrule before, have you? So potentially, they're not in Hyrule. I actually once had a wacky theory that they were in Termina, and that's what that part of the game is. However, one kind of creature that spans across all of like Termina, Hyrule, everything is the fairy. The fairies come in a few different variants. There's the partner fairy, which you meet at like Navi, for example, or the fairies from Phantom Hourglass, the fairies from Majora's Mask, for example, and these seem to have a lot more personality about them. They talk with you, they interact with you, they are guiding you. They are your partner fairy throughout the game. However, there's also stray fairies, which seem to be weaker. They just hang out all over Hyrule and they're used to revive hearts for traveling heroes. There is the Great Fairy, who seems to be a sort of amalgamation of lots of little stray fairies. If they get together in a fairy fountain, they become the Great Fairy. A creature of immense power, usually tied somehow to the magic of rupees. You often have to give them rupees in order for them to bestow you with incredible magic power, or extra hearts, or bigger quivers, or bomb bags. And then finally, there is the Queen of the Great Fairies, and why this particular creature is the leader, we don't really know. Interestingly enough, the fairy spirit that resides within the Master Sword in Skyward Sword is actually reminiscent of the Queen of the Fairies. They took design inspirations. Also, Queen of the Great Fairies has a little crush on Link, and that's kind of weird, actually. It's actually quite scary. Look into those empty eyes. And yeah, the fairies can be found absolutely everywhere, all around Hyrule and Termina.
Another interesting set of gods is the Four Giants, which are found in the alternate dimension that look a lot like Link's homeworld. In this strange land, they don't worship the golden goddesses at all. Instead, we see these lanky, big-nosed creatures that look like the weirdest marathon runners ever seen. They each come from the 4 regions of the land, and every year during the Carnival of Time, the people of Termina ask the Four Giants for a rich harvest in the year to come, wearing masks resembling these deities to honor them. But what about the Golden Goddesses and the Triforce then? Well, it seems like they know what it is, since it's found all over the Stone Tower Temple, but not in a positive way. So maybe they decided to worship the 4 giants instead, and so the Triforce and everything associated with it vanished over time, going for the 4 big boys instead.
There is another one, of course, of the big goddesses that we need to talk about, referenced in Majora's Mask, the goddess of time, who may well be Hylia, and I'm sure there's lots of Zelda fans who are getting in the comments like, no, the goddess of time is not Hylia, whether they are or aren't. They could be related, we don't really know, it's more of a fan speculation-y thing. The goddess of time is sort of mentioned offhandedly, and there's lots of connections to the goddess of time and Hylia. Hylia is, of course, the goddess name for Zelda. The Princess Zelda, who you see throughout all of the games, is just a human incarnation of a goddess, who was a goddess right up to the events right before Skyward Sword, when she turned herself into a human form. This to help her, I think it was to help her defeat Demise, who is like the big demon king. Whether Hylia is or isn't the goddess of time, and I think because there's a lot of connections to do with time travel on Skyward Sword, is unsure. The goddess of time is really first off mentioned in Termina, where they have gods and goddesses of their own as well. For example, the evil creatures Majora's Mask and Fierce Deity Link Mask. These masks contain the sort of spirit, the essence of other creatures that, if nothing else, looks super dope.
However, while the gods of good are fun and all, there are also evil deities, mostly demons. Think of beings like Demise, the Demon King, who once attacked the surface, but was stopped by Hylia being sealed forever. And when he returned, Link defeated him, and so he became Ganondorf later on as he cursed the world, which would mean he would forever return. Or his helper Girahim, a demon lord that was helping his master to obtain the mighty Triforce so he could conquer the world. However, there are also other demon kings like Maladus, but they all have one thing in common. They want to take over the surface instead of being stuck underground in hell. Luckily enough, none of them ever succeeded. Some certainly damaged the world, but never took it over forever. But in the history of the franchise, there was one who tried, but wasn't a demon at first. Vati, a Minish who tried to take over Hyrule, who got the Light Force and even transformed into an extremely powerful demon. It's a being normally associated with good, becoming a demon deity that wanted it all, but got none in the end. Thanks to all these events, the ruler of Hyrule decided that something had to be done. Something that could protect them aside from Link. And so the sages and maidens were born, normal mortals that became more than just that in order to protect the world and the Triforce.
Now there is one more final deity, like top tier god level, most powerful cat creature in all of Zelda that I have to talk about, and that is Tingle.
Oh no.
No. Hear me out here, WILY, because the thing is, Tingle claims to be only 40 years old, but Tingle has appeared throughout all of Zelda history. And I'm not just talking about the same person reincarnated here either, or different iterations of the same family. I mean, this is one guy who is always 40 years old. In fact, the little timer on his stopwatch, I'm pretty sure that's stuck. Maybe he's the goddess of time. Tingle is the goddess of time. But Tingle stretches far back through Zelda history, appearing in the first game chronologically, Skyward Sword, as a little figurine in Zelda's room. Not only that, but in the Wind Waker version, Tingle's achievements are chronicled in the Towers of the Gods. So clearly, Tingle is the most important, longest-lasting, eternal creature in the whole of Zelda.
Please, don't start Zelda tubing. If you want something like that, then check out our casual versus speedrun videos on tons of Zelda games, or our recent top 5 on them. It's all in the upper right corner. Also, don't forget to subscribe.
So hi, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon